Got a review for you here on the channel today. We're going to look at the ACU Archery S.O.S stabilization kit. I'm going to unbox it and show it to you up close, and I will then put it on my bow, get some data, put it to the test, and let you know if it actually helps me hold any steadier. So before I get into the ACU Archery Stability Optimization System, I'm going to call it the S.O.S. Before I get into the S.O.S, I just want to let you know that I did purchase this with my own money. They did not send me this, so this review is truly unbiased. If you are interested in one of these, I will have links down in the description below and a card at the top up there to this actual product at Lancaster Archery Supply. And if you click that link before you shop there, genuinely that helps this channel out, and that's what helps fund buying these things, to actually put them to the test, to give you an unbiased and completely fair review, and to not pull any punches. That's really what I like to do on this channel. I am not sponsored at all. I'm very proud of that. I specifically disallow sponsorships for the sake of me being able to actually do this kind of testing, because a lot of the pro shooters out there, they're pros for a reason. They are paid to be biased, to tell you to buy the gear. I am not. I'm here because I want to be unbiased, and I'm here because I want to help you make better choices when it comes to buying archery gear and archery products, because this thing is not cheap and it takes a lot of time to actually earn that money that you may spend on this thing. So I'm going to open it up. It came in pretty recently after being on back order for a little while. It's packaged pretty decently. They've got a manual here that's just an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and then there is a whole bunch of different things here in the kit itself. So it looks like we've got the mount that is essentially a set of V-blocks basically that actually will bolt onto the bow itself or onto the stabilizer, and then you've got your weights here at the end that are supported with steel cabling essentially. So I'm gonna check it out a little bit more. Comes with a bunch of different hardware. Don't know why, but there's two of these in place. So I'm gonna set things down, look at things here, and just kind of, yeah, so it just comes apart obviously. So I gotta read the instructions because I think this is gonna be a relatively involved piece of gear. I don't think it's gonna be super simple. You can angle it differently. Looks like you can bolt on different weights. As far as the actual finish on the product and the quality, as far as what it looks like, it looks pretty good to me. I see some machine marks here or there. No, I believe that is anodizing. Yeah, I think it might be anodizing. Okay, so there's definitely some machine marks here or there on the actual product, especially on the relief cuts on the inside. You know, you can see that. So they didn't tumble it a terribly long amount after machining. Not a big deal. Still looks good. I'm going to look at the manual first and see, because this thing comes apart. There's little spring ball detents, and you can see some slots there, like a cam lock essentially, where these little nubs stick out. And you align them, you push them in, you turn them, and then they lock in place. So I'd be interested to see why it's quick disconnect. Because for me, there's a lot of play in there still, but maybe there's a way to adjust it and tighten it down. Yeah, it looks like there is. There's a set screw here on the side. So before I really get too critical of this thing, I'm going to look at the manual. From what I understand, this is in like a large building technology, as far as, you know, they put these things, these counterweights, inside of very large buildings, like tall skyscrapers, maybe even bridges and things like that, to counteract seismic activity as well as wind flexion as well. So it kind of dampens the actual building. So it's supposed to stay more steady. And so they're trying to apply that kind of technology into archery. And you're supposed to essentially clamp this end on your stabilizer towards the bow, and it's just supposed to absorb and take out natural human movement to hopefully help you hold a little bit steadier. So I'm going to check the manual out, but the way I'm going to test this is I'm here at 70 meters. I have a camera down there so you see the impact points the whole time, and I'm going to shoot some ends without the system on, give you an idea as to what the sight picture is that I'm seeing. I will describe it to you after each shot, kind of where my sight pin is, how it's floating or moving. Then I'll put this on and do the exact same thing and tell you if it tightens up my aiming pattern that I can actually see. I also have a mantis that I'll put on the bow to measure the actual movement to give you a stability score to see if that changes as well. I personally don't really like that, but I know a lot of you out there do. For me, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't feel very precise, and it doesn't seem to reflect my actual feeling and my actual sight picture. Step 1, install the riser mount stud if necessary. Looks like this is a riser mount stud is what I'm guessing. Yeah. Stud fits into any standard stabilizer hole on any riser, yeah. So it comes with different screws, different length screws. That's the silver ones in the package for different OD stabilizers. So that's nice because it'll keep things nice and tight and neat and be able to swap those back and forth. Comfortably tighten, screw snug, but don't over tighten. Yeah, you can crush your stabilizer and all that stuff. So for sure you got to be careful. It looks like there's some sort of TPU or TPE type of insert that actually clamps. That's the white pieces there, so it'll... Got yellow flies here today. That is supposed to kind of hold it together and not let the thing move. Okay, so yeah, the side of this part down here is the quick disconnect screw, so you have to loosen that to be able to remove it. To adjust your wire angle, loosen the clocking screw and twist the ring to the necessary location and tighten. What is the necessary location? Play with the wire orientation and weight location. Weak orientation will follow the quick disconnect screw axis, and the stiff orientation will be the opposite. Weak orientation will follow the So it says stiff wire orientation, weak wire orientation. So their diagram is a little lacking, totally honest here. Like here's their diagram. Those arrows, one arrow is pointing kind of at a wire, and this wire is pointing in space. So this is the weak wire orientation and the stiff wire orientation. That literally means nothing to me, so I'm not quite sure there. Step 7, if you don't feel like the SAW is correcting enough, move the unit further away from the grip of your bow or add weight to the unit. If you feel like it's correcting your aim too much, I don't think that's a problem. Maybe that means overcorrecting. Move the unit closer to the grip of your bow and reduce weight. The SAWS wires act as a spring, so adding more weight will make the device work more, while reducing weight will soften the vibration or the movement. Oh, here's the instructions. I should have read the other side. It says, yeah. Congrats on purchasing the SAWS. You get a bunch of stuff. This is cool. Where do I start? Exactly, yep. It's a mass-tuned damper. It utilizes the same fundamental technology that you find on everything from skyscrapers to wind turbulence, all the way to doctor's surgical tools against unwanted trembles. Cool. Science, and it works. Yes, it should. In an archery application, the SAW picks up your personal vibrations and frequencies and that you put into the bow while aiming, and it dissipates them. Some people aim with slow, sweeping movements, some with fast, short twitches. Yes, of course. The beauty of the SAWS is it can be set to work up in a manner to help every archer achieve a better aim. With that said, the SAWS is a mass-tuned damper, so don't get discouraged if your initial results aren't perfect. It'll take time and experimentation and the location to find your personal sweet spot. We suggest starting with the SAWS unit attached to either the riser stud on your front or back bar, with the wire unit facing towards the grip of the bow. These are the locations where the SAWS will be least active and provide a gentle guidance on your aim. The further you install the SAWS from the center of the riser, the more leverage will be applied to the device, and you'll see a greater correction of movement. Cool. Excellent. That's awesome to know. You'll notice the 2 sets of wire units. The first set has all 4 stiff wires. That's what must be this one, because I can't tell a difference between the wires. They all feel the same to me. Aha, yes, and visually you can see a difference on this one here. This wire unit towards the camera right now is a stiff bristle, and this one is more of a densely compacted one. So it's just different. More strand count with weaker, smaller wires, so there is a difference between the 2 sides. One is soft and one is stiff. I forgot to mention as well, I've broken dislocated fingers, that's why I'm wearing splints at the moment. Okay, so that makes sense now. I should have read the instructions from the beginning. This is your balanced or stiff set of wires. That's this one. You'll notice that the wires have a weak and stiff axis orientation. Depending on your own personal aiming movement, you may find the different orientations to provide different results. You'll also find a wire unit with 2 weak and 2 stiff, so it's biased. And this wire setup will be best for someone who sees consistent directional movement in their aim, like dip bangs or the tight sight tugging left are common ailments that this wire setup will be best for. Personally, that's not me, so I'm going to set that aside. Place the wires with the stiff set in the direction you'd like to stabilize and you're good to go. That's cool. So for dip bangs, you'll set the stiff wires facing upwards to fix the drop in your sight pin. That's pretty cool. All right, so that makes a whole lot more sense. I'm going to stick with the basic one, leave the amount of weights that came on it, and go from there. I see that there's a lot of extra weights here. There is another pack of weights. It looks like another 1 ounce and 2 ounce stack that can be added to this little thing here. But for now, I'm gonna set that stuff aside and not bother with it and work on mounting this to my bow. Before actually putting this on my bow and getting it fully dialed in and set up and tested, I'm gonna shoot some shots to get a baseline. I'm gonna probably do 2 ends here at 70 meters, and I will run the Mantis and tell you what the actual stability score was after each shot and describe to you my sight picture that I'm seeing, where my sight pin is floating and how the overall movement is happening. And then I'll put this on and do the same thing for 2 more ends, maybe mess around with the adjustment and the placement as well, just get an idea of if it's making any difference at all. And yeah, we'll put it to the test. Now that one was a quick shot, but the pin didn't leave the 10 ring. It was almost dead still. 95.8 stability. That one was kind of dancing around and it was touching the edge of the red in just about every direction, and then about halfway through the execution it was rising up and sitting kind of at the top of the yellow up in the 8-7 line, and then the shot broke. That was a 92.8 stability score. Definitely more stable than the one before. It still floated a little high and kind of hung out a little high just above the 10 ring or sitting at the top of it, but it was basically within the yellow and not uncontrolled or moving all over the place. It was fairly steady. Stability score 92.9. And that one was, it sat kind of low left, 9-10 line, and then I stared past the pin. I've been paying attention to it too much. I've been trying to give you an idea as to how it's moving, so it's been distracting me from the actual shot process. So that one went much better and was much cleaner with delivery. The sight went right back to the middle right as it was firing, so clearly paying attention to it too much is no good. That was a 95.9 stability score, so it was the highest one so far and one of the better feeling shots as well. So I need to kind of just do that, pay attention but not watch it. So I'm going to do that one more end just to be sure, make sure I'm staring past the sight pin, not paying too much attention to it. So this is actually a great time to do this testing because with my fingers being all messed up, my bow hand position's definitely not like it should be, and I feel a little less stable overall. That one, because I was staring at the middle, I could definitely see that it was wiggling around, touched the 8 ring a couple times out to the right. But overall it was quite steady, just kind of wiggling around. I was able to maintain composure by not staring at the sight pin and kind of looking past it. That was a 95.2 on that one. That one sat quite well. Delivery was pretty good. Basically started a little high, top of the 10 ring and came back down right in the middle and sat there right before the shot broke. That one sat low at first, came down from the top, sat in the bottom of the gold, then went right up in the middle about a half second before the shot broke. Overall, it was quite good. Stability score 95.3 on that one. That one was pretty similar to the last one. Kind of sat out low 10, moved upper right 10, sat in the middle, and the shot broke. Also was a good one, 92.5 stability score. So I'm gonna go down and get them, and then I'm gonna install the S.O.S kit on the bow at the stabilizer, so it's a little bit further away from the grip, so it should be quite reactive, and I should see a big difference. This actually kind of worries me about crushing the stabilizer. I know it's rubber, so it'll help, but I have a tendency to way over tighten everything. It'd be a shame if I hurt something on this stabilizer. Because what is a reasonable amount of resistance to twisting? Alright, so that's not going to work. I have to turn the thing around because the way I've got it situated, it's just going to bounce and bang on the stabilizers. Could angle it down some. I don't know. Let's just try it there. Why not? There. No more weird noise now. So, it's definitely heavier, right? This is quite a considerable amount of weight. I think that most people, in my opinion, aren't really going to be able to handle this thing, especially women and children. Like my wife's setup, I don't have barely any weights on the stabilizer. I bet that thing weighs more than the whole stabilizer system. And she really doesn't need much more weight than what she's got. And so it'll be interesting to see who ends up adopting this. I think the ones that are professional shooters that shoot a lot, they may end up adopting it, maybe. Really depends on the company's business model, I think. But who knows? Your average shooter may enjoy this thing, depending on how user-friendly it is. Reconnect my mantis. I hate how I have to set this thing down every 5 seconds. I dislike how much I have to set this thing down so it calibrates. Sorry about that. The clouds moved in, so I gotta change the aperture setting a little bit there. So yeah, the installation went okay. It's definitely a decent amount of mass weight. Like, I can feel it. It's really heavy now. I'd have to take a considerable amount off my stabilizers, I think, to compensate how I'd actually want to. But I was floating out the top quite a bit on a lot of those shots, so this may fix quite a bit. We'll find out. All right, so what I would say is it felt steadier. There was less movement. I was shaking. I was inducing shake into the bow, but the sight pin stayed pretty still. It wasn't having the high speed movements. Those were almost gone, but the big slow movements were still there. So to give you an idea, the pin basically stuck in the 10 ring, but then it kind of just wavered and slowly went down to the 8 ring, and then the shot went off. Stability score was 95.0. So that one I had to really give effort to keep the actual aim up, to keep the stabilization aim up. So I think that the actual weight of it, it's a little bit too far forward for me because I'm actually manually having to lift it up. The sight pin, again, same kind of thing. Not much in the way of high speed, jittery kind of movements, but I still saw quite a bit of slower movements. That was a 94.4 stability score. That one, same kind of thing, not really any fast movements. It just hung and stuck on that left side and didn't really want to move much. Felt like the pin didn't want to react and go back to the middle. I'm going to make sure that I'm not watching the pin too much. make sure I'm going back to staring at the middle. It was a 94.2 stability score. All right, so that one, it hung on the right 8 ring. I stared at the middle, it went to the middle, then it went way low left 8, and then it kind of went back to the middle as I shot it off. Not really confidence building, to be totally honest. 95.2 stability score on that one. Yeah, not super, I don't feel very confident in the shot. It feels weird. It's definitely something different. So obviously with time that may change and with some adjustments. So I'm gonna actually put the thing in the back stabilizer bushing with that the stud mount, and then get the thing sitting a little bit closer to the grip, somewhere in this area. They say it'll reduce some of the action, which I don't find to be a problem. It's just a bit heavy. There's a bit too much weight in this area. And, you know, after the shot, as far as vibration's concerned, I'd say there's very little change. I don't really notice a whole lot of difference here. It's the whole aiming thing and it being heavier and harder to keep up in the middle is far more distracting than whatever amount of vibration I'm getting out of the system. So I'm definitely gonna just mount it back here. I was just thinking as I was walking back and forth from the target as to what I'm feeling and trying to figure out what they're describing as to, you know, too much stabilization. And maybe that's what I'm feeling, because it feels like it's lazy. It doesn't feel like it's reactive, and it's distracting to me. So maybe that's what they mean by too much stability, too much action, something like that. So I'm gonna use the bow mount and put it back by the grip. I'm gonna use the same amount of weight, but overall they said moving it closer to the grip should slow down the reaction a little bit. So we'll see how much of a difference I feel, if anything. I'm gonna put it on the left side of the grip because it'll offset the stabilizer or the sight bar and all of that stuff. I like that I can tighten this with a little bit more authority and not feel so worried about it because of the angle of this spot on the bow. It's putting it up towards the grip. I've got to orient it in a way that'll keep it out of my hand. Stupid fingers in the way, so it kind of sticks out towards the fingers. Definitely wouldn't be mounting it here full time, but it's a good experiment to see if I see any difference. The bow doesn't feel so heavy this way though. All right, so see, you saw a flinch there probably. So what happened was, as I was pulling, the clicker hung up on the point and didn't fully drop. It's a metal clicker tip. This is the first time it's actually happened on this clicker. But before that, I would say the aiming was, the jitteriness was gone, and it didn't feel so lazy. It still was very slow moving, kind of sat in the middle and hung out down low, and then it didn't really want to go back to the middle from there. I could have been staring at it too closely. And of course, with this ridiculous Mantis thing, I didn't hit the start button, so it didn't record. So I'm sorry about that. All right, so that one sat really well in the middle. It floated a little bit. Still doesn't really have as much of the same confident feel. The fast movements are completely gone though. So it's very different. I think maybe with some time, some training, I'd get used to the actual feel of the thing not moving with that jitteriness. 95.3 stability score, so that's good. Something just feels weird. It's probably just because it's different. But it just feels like the pin wants to be stuck. It's just hanging out on that right side, stuck on that 9/8 line. Didn't want to move over. 93.1 stability on that one. It feels great. It is very steady, but it feels lazy. So maybe I need to reduce the amount of weight that is on it. I'm not entirely sure. Definitely does something. That one overall felt pretty good as far as the stability, just sat there. It was drifting from the left side of the 10 ring slowly to the right side of the 10 ring, but it wasn't like wavering and jumping around. 95.1 stability on that one. Just feels a little odd. So I'm gonna go down and shoot one more end with lighter weight on it. I'm gonna go to just like maybe, I don't know how little weight I can put on it, but I'm gonna try to put as little weight as possible and see how that goes. And then I'll wrap this up here for this review of the ACU Archery S.O.S. All right, so for the last end, I took off the big fat weight. That was probably 2.5 ounces or something like that. So it's a little bit less weight now. I'm gonna leave it in the same position. Seemed to have given me a stability score of 94.2, so that's good. It sat much better. It still had a little bit of wiggle now. So going down in mass weight, I can see a little bit more of the wiggle. I would say it's probably 25% of what it was without the S.O.S kit on it. And it definitely seemed to be a little bit more reactive and not so lazy. Yeah, same thing. Definitely a little bit of wiggle, definitely a lot more reactive, although it still did sit on that right side of the 10 ring. It didn't want to get back to the middle, despite me really looking past the pin, trying to direct my pressure where I wanted the arrow to go. That last one was a 95.3 stability score. That one, not entirely sure what it was about it, but it kind of felt stuck, but it did move. It just was delayed in the desire that I wanted it to actually move. It kind of sat left 8 ring, low left, and then kind of went to the 10, and then it was in the middle by the time it went off. So it ended up going great as far as the actual delivery. 94.5 stability score. Again, I think with some training, I might feel a whole lot more comfortable with this system. And obviously, if my fingers weren't all messed up, it'd be a lot better as well. That one sat pretty good. Sat in the bottom of the 10 ring. Very little wiggle. It was a more stable shot for me overall as well. I mean, it was a good group down there for those 4 arrows. That was a 92.1 stability score. That was actually the least that I've used with this S.O.S thing, the ACU S.O.S. So, yeah, it's very interesting. To me, it's shocking how much of a difference it does actually make, because, you know, you get a lot of these gimmicky things all the time that come out that where, you know, people say, oh, it'll help me hold more steady because it's whatever, the latest, greatest, coolest thing on earth. But turns out that this ACU Archery S.O.S stabilization optimization system, I made that up, stability optimization system. I was really close actually. So this thing actually does work. It does do something, and I'm surprised that it actually holds so steady. It can hold almost too steady to where it's lazy, so I get the overcorrection or the overstability statement now in their actual manual. So it's quite interesting to see how much of a difference this thing can actually make. If I had a problem with dip bangs and all sorts of other things, it'd be very interesting to see with a slightly stiffer wire, you know, the stiff wire on one side and the weak wire on the other, just to see how it would actually work. But the thing assembled pretty well. It clamped decently tight to the stabilizer. I was really afraid to crush the stabilizer because I know that as you tighten these things, the amount of force that it's clamping with is really going through the roof. But on their little bow mount thing, where I actually ended up liking it the most, it's super stable. It doesn't want to move. I'm not going to crush it, and I've got no fear there as far as that's concerned. But overall, I would say that this ACU Archery stability device actually does something. If you have the money and the availability and the time to tinker with this thing, this could definitely elevate your game, in my opinion. It could get you a little bit more confidence in aiming. I'd be very interested to know how it actually performs in a very, very windy environment. There's a lot of surface area here. There's a lot of turbulence that'll get generated. So you're gonna get blown around more in the wind, but is the trade-off worth it? And are you able to react back? Because for me, the big problem was feeling comfortable like executing the shot properly, because if it was too lazy and stuck too much, it took me out of my shot because it was literally hanging out right 8 ring and it wouldn't go back to the middle. But it didn't have that jitter that I also don't like either. So with the lighter weight, with it closer to the grip, as it said, it acts less. And I did see a difference from 3 different configurations, 3 different differences as far as the way the bow held and shot and aimed. Stability wise, according to the Mantis, I'd say it was more consistent, but not necessarily better. My higher stability shots were actually, I believe, without the system, but I also had much lower shots without the system too, as far as stability is concerned with the Mantis. I think the biggest challenge with this would be, number 1, time to find out where the best place to be is. I am a tinkerer, so I like doing those things, but I only have so much time in the day. I think it will take a considerable amount of time to get really dialed in, and a considerable amount of time for me to get comfortable with it, to be confident in my shot as it's happening, because it does change the feel so dramatically, and it's quite shocking. If this is the first time you're seeing this channel, if you wouldn't mind, please do hit the subscription button and the notification bell down below. Genuinely, that helps this channel out. I work on producing unbiased reviews like this one and many more, as well as tutorials on how to shoot your Olympic style recurve, barebow, traditional, all sorts of single string stuff. Getting into compound a little bit, I shoot that a little bit off camera myself, but I'm not an expert, so I really don't spend a ton of time there. However, I do produce these unbiased reviews with your support. As you click those links down in the description below, like I said before, it genuinely helps this channel out and affords me to buy more of this equipment so I can put more reviews out. So that way you get unfiltered, unbiased reviews directly to you here on YouTube. And like I said, I can't thank those that do click those links enough. Genuinely, that makes a huge difference in supporting this channel, and I appreciate it. Thank you for watching.